mix their fabrics, but people feel a little intimidated about it. So you're going to walk us through how you can have some fun with your fabrics while mixing and matching.
Well, this is a great way to add personality to our space, because as Canadians, we tend to be fairly safe.
Yes.
You know, we love that white checker kitchen. We like the good soft grays. And so our palette tends to be pretty neutral, which is great because there's longevity in that. But then you want to inject that personality and that color into your space.
Let's show them an example. We have a picture of a space that is just teeming with personality, but it's so beautifully done, sophisticated.
Yes.
So this space here, you have a good time with the rug, with the ottomans, with the cushions, and that's really, it's all a mix.
It is. And so sometimes what will happen is clients have existing pieces.
Yeah.
So then obviously we need to work with those. Sometimes clients fall in love with something. So in that case, the clients fell in love with this beautiful striped rug and had all sorts of colors. So for example, we said, okay, there's all these great vibrant colors. We'll keep kind of sofas neutral and that kind of thing. But as you said, the ottomans and the rug and the art had great color. So you can see that there's a beautiful color story here. Everything relates to each other. There's a lot of vibrancy. But if you had a fairly neutral home and you took this out, the home, you could switch it up and all of a sudden you could go monochromatic and do a much more softer gray palette.
Do you stick to the rule of the big things, keep them neutral?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you're going to do that, you have to kind of know what you're up to, because the problem is, say, for example, you went and bought a beautiful red sofa. You're madly in love with it. It's beautiful. Every time you walk in the room, it's kind of demanding. You walk in, you feel that red sofa. It has an energy to it.
Slaps you across the face.
It does slap you across the face. And you might love that for the first 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
And after that, it might get to be a bit much.
Yes.
So if you're going to do something like that, just be prepared. Maybe buy really good quality, and then you can reupholster it. Because reupholstering isn't inexpensive, so be prepared that you're going to spend, 20, 30 yards of fabric.
Right.
And you want a good quality fabric.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yes.
Want to take a look at another picture?
Yes, let's look at this one. So
here's another space. Tell us about it.
So this is a master suite. Up in a loft, we actually converted an attic space and found a niche up there, which was fantastic. They fell in love with the wallpaper.
Yeah, I love
They love that yellow.
Yeah.
So the nice thing is that you can fall in love with something and build a palette around it. And people often say, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, how many fabrics can I use?
Where do I start?
Yes. And the old rule of thumb was like, oh, you can only do 4 or 5 fabrics in a room, and that's the rule. And I don't know why I have to sound like a man when I do that, but that's the rule.
And that's how it was said.
That's how it was said back in the day. And my dad told me that. No, he didn't. But now, like, if you look at some of our boards, all of our boards have 7 fabrics on them, and this one even has 11 fabrics.
Oh, really?
11. So you
but
can
it doesn't
do that
look
in a
jarring
space.
at all.
It doesn't, because there has to be a relationship, and it's what I like to call a color story. So we look at this board, for example, your client might fall in love with, or you might fall in love with this fabric. Fantastic. You think, okay, you know what, that's a great drapery. You're going to spend a fair amount of money on drapery, because when you start thinking about a big, huge window and draping it and getting like the fullness, which is what makes it feel luxurious, you're going to spend a lot of money. But if you did something like this, you could move from this palette, which is very vibrant and really fun, and you can imagine you could even introduce some of the grays and make it a much more softer palette 5 years down the road.
What you've done here, though, and I think the reason why it works is that the patterns, you've got sort of large scale going with small scale when it comes to the print. It can't be all large scale. It can't be all small scale.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's
the truth, right?
It is the point. Yes.
Okay, good.
That's actually one of the points. So this is big and large and airy, because we don't want any of our fabrics fighting with each other.
Right.
So if you find it's not just about the size of the pattern, it's about the airiness. So this is obviously large but airy. Then you can see this one's kind of medium but dense.
Yes.
So, and sometimes a texture will read as a color. So here's a designer trick.
Okay.
So when you're looking at something, we often look at things, even for example, flooring. It's so funny, I have clients in our studio and they'll be looking at flooring like this, and I'll say, no, we'll put it down on the floor and we stand back and look at it, because you never look at your flooring, well, hopefully. I don't know. Maybe you do, I'm not judging. but it's good to stand back, because sometimes you think something reads, like for example, these are great ones to look at.
Right.
Do they read to you as a color, or do they read to you as a texture? Texture. But sometimes they might read as a color. You might look at it close up and say, oh, there's gray threads in there, and red and green and blah, 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 blah. And then you stand back, you're like, oh my gosh, it totally reads as blue.
Right.
So it's important to kind of get some perspective on it and stand away. Get away from your fabric, stand away.
This one's fun.
Oh.
I love this one.
Yes.
And I would never do it, because I just don't have the guts to be this bold.
Yes.
But I love how that looks.
Well, and the truth is, sometimes I'll show clients a whole bunch of fabrics, and we'll be going through them, and I'll say, just tell me what you love and don't like. Don't even worry where it's going. Just like, love it, hate it, love it, hate it, love it, hate it. And then what happens is, this might just be a pillow. This might be an accent chair, this might be your drapes, and that might be, so it doesn't have to be all vibrant everywhere.
Yeah, have some fun with it, you know, and trust your eye. Let's go to break. It's home day. Stay with us.